Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. What if England sinks or attacks a Russian vessel? What if Britain downs a Russian plane? Wherever they claim they downed it or they sunk, in the territorial waters, in the international, in the economic zone, in British airspace, in the international airspace. What if that happens? Well, I can give you a hint. The Russians will definitely return the favor. In order to understand the dynamics of a situation and therefore approximate or being able to foresee the next move of an entity involved in this issue, you have to pay attention, memorize historical events or memorize events that occur and then they become history in time, and then you're going to create a pattern. You're going to see a pattern, and based on that pattern, in the future, when something similar happens, you kind of know what was the reaction 50 times before under the close same circumstances. So we have here about 8 articles, and all of them deal with England and Russia. The English, and I'm not going to call them Great Britain, because Great Britain is when they are, about to be smacked, and England is when something Great Britain does good. I've been told this a long time ago by an English guy. Whenever we screw up, we call it Great Britain. Whenever we do something fantastic, we call it England. So, to call the Anglo-Saxons, the Welsh, the Irish, the Scots, and the English together, it's just a weasel way of saying these guys are under the thumb of the English. You might not like it, but if you look deeper into the issue, that is the reality. The leadership is from London. All right, so what happened here? First, the Brits tell us that they can solve the war in Ukraine. And it's very easy, very easy. That's the first topic. And obviously everything has to do with Russia. The second one, the Russians claim that the English avoid any meaningful dialogue. They don't want to talk with the Russians. This is according to the Russians, remember. Then the English, together with their Ukrainian vassals, tried to kill an important Russian officer. And they used, according to the Russians, some British-made poison in a British-made beer. Now, you may say, as I would say, it doesn't prove it was the Brits. It's like someone uses an AK-47 and let's say is made in Russia. It doesn't mean that Russia plotted that assassination or whatever it might be. I mean, this is logic. Except when you live in England and you're told that Novichok was used in order to try to poison some guys in London and unsuccessfully, thank God, right? And it was the Russians because the agents meaning the poison, was made by the Russians in the 1970s or something. So therefore it was the Russians. So if I use a Remington to do something, it must be the Americans. I don't even know if Remington is still owned by the Americans, because I know Colt is not. He's owned by the Czechs, if you can believe that thing. All right, nevertheless, I'm not blaming the Czechs. I'm blaming the imbeciles here. So we'll talk about this UK-Ukraine plot to assassinate Russian officer. All right, then we have the Russians downing, according to them, 4 Storm Shadow air-launched cruise missiles. Now, Storm Shadow are Scalp. It's through cooperation, the French and the Brits, the English, or if you want to call the Brits all the subjects of the English, I'm fine with that. And if you don't, I will use it nevertheless. So they created this Storm Shadow missile. And it is an air. Well, you put it underneath a jet and it's going to deliver it. Those missiles were provided by England to Ukraine to strike Russia. I'm just bringing some information first, and I'm going to use it in the chronology of events. So we have no doubt about who is the aggressor, who is the initiator, and who is the one that wants to destroy whom. Not the Russians will not want to destroy the other guys, but the other guys are at it clearly, using others. But the problem is, when English will down a Russian plane or a Russian vessel, then what? It's not going to down a Russian vessel, it's going to sink it or damage it, then what? I don't think that would happen. Why? Because the English do not want to fight the Russians. Why? They're bankrupt. That's the first one. Second one, have no resources. Third one, their military is not in the best shape. That's because I'm nice. All right. And we have here Navy, the British Navy, changes rules of engagement after Russian ship tries to blind RAF pilots. All right. So UK says military options ready if Russian spy ship becomes a threat. Now, it's not the Russian spy ship. It is allegedly. So they didn't say that's a spy ship. Maybe, could be, but it is something, and we're going to strike you militarily. Russian spy ship enters UK waters, and it is economic waters, 200 miles, not territorial waters, 12 miles, and aims lasers at military pilots, Britain says, and we believe that. All right, so these are the topics that we're going to discuss, and mainly why these guys in England have a problem with Russia. Well, that's a given. I'm starting from that because that's a fact. I mean, if you want to ignore that, that's fine, but you're going to miss the point each and every time they're going to give you an article saying this and that if you don't start by that. If you start by that dynamics, you're going to understand things. If you start from the Russians want to invade the European Union and Great Britain, you will miss the point. You will not understand what's going on. All right, you can have obviously a different opinion, but hey, for a while, just do this for about 2 weeks. Take this worldview and use it as a lens through which you see the issue between England and the Russians. So let's start with the first one. Ukrainska Pravda. This is from the 20th of November 2025. I find my glasses. UK on US peace plan. Russia can end war by withdrawing its troops, according to Reuters. So United Kingdom tells about the US and the Russian peace plan that Russia could end this just by retreating its troops. Well, I think the Russians can say the same thing to the Brits. Withdraw your support, your war against us, and there will be no war. And the Brits will say what? The Brits will start history on the 24th of February 2022. That's where they like to start. Or maybe they will start it in 2014 briefly with a war that, or maybe they start with Crimean Peninsula. But that's it, they will selectively pick and analyze and create a narrative based on those events. They will not go to NATO or 1991, because if you mention that, they will pretend like, what are you talking about? Exactly. Remember the lens. So what happened here? UK says US peace plan, Russia can end war by withdrawing its troops. Well, the same thing with the other guys, with NATO. Withdraw your troops and support, and we're going to take over Ukraine, because you try to take over Ukraine right here, right here. Now, I have to show you, it seems like, not because you're a bad person or anything like that, on the map where Great Britain or even England is, right here. Ukraine is right here. Russia is right here. So before these guys tell these guys to stop fighting, they feel very, very, how should I put it, very safe here. And they have no problem helping these guys fight the other guys, where actually they, together with the other guys across the ocean, are the initiator of all this in this area. And they're not only there. They will be pretty soon right here in this area in the Caucasus. Next one. United Kingdom shows no desire for dialogue. All right, well, this is according to the Russia's foreign minister spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova. And this is what she says. When one side of a conversation clearly lacks the desire to listen to their opponent, dialogue does not occur. And representatives of the UK establishment, including Jonathan Powell, have not demonstrated such a desire either then or subsequently, Zakharova said. Now, you don't have to believe what Zakharova says, because Zakharova can say whatever she wants, the same as the Brits, the English, and so on. So, UK media delayed the publishing of information about contacts between Ushakov and Powell in an attempt to shift the blame for the lack of progress in resolving the Ukrainian crisis onto Moscow, Zakharova says. As for reasons why this story surfaced after such a long period of time, given the traditionally commissioned nature of such British media publications, we can safely categorize it as part of the broader Western information campaign aimed at shifting responsibility for the lack of progress in the peace process on Ukraine from themselves onto Russia. Well, now, the Brits have no interest in having the Ukrainians and the Russians be good neighbors, or the Russians taking over Ukraine, let's put it as they say it. They have no interest. I mean, look at Great Britain. Great Britain is about what? 70 million almost? I think it's 60 some, last time I checked, maybe 70 million people on a very small plot of land, barren plot of land, mind you, with a lot of people coming from outside that will dilute their Britannia spirit. That means they're fucked. To be clear, those guys have a higher natality rate. That means they will live probably longer and have more kids. And the Brits will be, they call it replaced. All right, and then you have the new Brits. The new Brits, unfortunately, will be the ones that are very frustrated with some other countries' colonial pasts. What will the new Brits do you think, when they get their claws on the British small nuclear arsenal? What do you think they will do to countries like Belgium, that, I don't know, did very many bad things in Africa, for instance? Do you think they will say, Belgians, how are you doing? Or they will say, now it's your turn, let me unzip my pants. If not, I want to give you a little smack around with the real Brits' achievements, nuclear weapons in this case. What do you think will happen? So be careful, you're screwing yourself, you are in the process. I don't know how you're gonna get out of this unless you start sending people where they belong and recreating something that you lost, which is not all of you, but they're working at it. Who are they? Alien people within your ranks. Who are they? You can find them. Okay, all right. So what's going on over here? The Russians say these guys have no interest to talk to us. Of course not, because that's not the interest coming from the Brits. The Brits, with everything I said, big population, small plot, barren land, have no resources. If you're about, each country stays on its plot and, let's say, works with its own resources, I think Great Britain will be a, fourth-rated country, unless it uses the nuclear weapons to get someone else's resources. That's how they do it. With their intelligence, creating problems left and right, grabbing other people's resources. That's how they can survive. Otherwise, they will have another potato famine. Oh, I know that was in Ireland and so on, but all right, it was just a historical fact here. Now, what happened here? Remember that Novichok? Novichok was an agent, a chemical agent created by the Soviet Union and not by the Russians. By the Soviet Union, I think in the 70s or something. Since then, that Novichok is in the arsenal of many other countries. I think they said, no more Novichok, we're done with that. What I'm trying to say is that Novichok has been already outside of the box. So it's not only in Soviet Union, like the AKs, or I know, like M16 or whatever they are. They are in other locations on these planets. Therefore, who's using them? It doesn't mean that if I use, as I said, American weapon is the Americans. Or if, I don't know, I give it to Abu Hassan, I give him a freaking German knife, Zollinger or whatever, it's a German attack. No, it's not a German attack. Whoever wields it, that's the guy. Using the weapons provided or acquired by the individual. So, when those attempted assassination, unsuccessful, which I don't believe in them, Not in the assassination that it didn't happen. Not the way they told us. When you play with this kind of Novichok and others, it's not like, oh, it was the dose were so small. It just had a little reaction. I don't believe that at all. You either have no reaction or you're dead. There's no in between. But hey, these guys can tell an ignorant population how much they want. So they said, most likely, this was the outcome of the investigations. Most likely it was the Russians. Most likely you went to your neighbors last night while your wife was sleeping. Most likely. You know, with most likely, I can make a lot of shit down here. So, if that worked then, it was most likely the Russians. Here is what the Russians say about these guys. UK-Ukraine plot to assassinate Russian officer foiled. The Russian Federal Security Service said, like the Brits said, like the English said, it had detained a resident of the Donetsk People's Republic who was plotting to assassinate a high-ranking Russian Defense Ministry officer on orders from Ukrainian military intelligence. The Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation said detained a DPR resident involved in plotting a terrorist attack using a chemical warfare agent against a high-ranking Russian Defense Ministry officer. Okay, Kiev planned to kill the officer with a British-made poison mixed into gift bottles of British beer, the statement added. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean that the British were involved, does it? And I'm quoting, a test of the confiscated bottles revealed that the beer contained a mixture of highly toxic chemicals. Colchicine, that's how I would say, and tert butyl bicyclophosphate, an analog of the military grave nerve agent VX, banned by 1993 Chemical Weapons Convention, produced in the United Kingdom. These chemicals, when consumed, cause agonizing death within 20 minutes, the statement read. And I have a video here, I'm not going to play, with these guys grabbing this baboon right here, and supposedly this is he's in a position of being penetrated, but hey, they will not. This on camera. So, Ukraine murder plot using UK-made chemical weapons foiled. So, they say that this guy was supposed to give a friend of the military this gift from the whomever as a gift, the British beer. Who wants to drink British beer? Someone, it seems like. But nevertheless, I never had British beer. Maybe someone can write down some suggestions of black British beer or English beer, not British, because if you go by that, so English beer and maybe some blonde British or English beer I would like to taste. Maybe something very tasteful. I don't want plain, tasteful. All right, thank you. All right, so here it is. Were the Brits involved? I don't know, but the Russians bring this up. Next one. And now this is a fact right here. According to Sputnik, Russian air defense systems shot down 4 Storm Shadow air-launched cruise missiles. I tried to find the location and they did not provide it. I would like to know what was the target, all right? And they didn't provide that location. I would like to know it because if those Storm Shadows were used to strike inside Russia, again, we have a big problem with the English. But the English seem to not see it that way. They feel like, and this is the propaganda, we come to help a poor country of Ukraine who just mind its own business and it's democratic like us, having a king and an appointed prime minister. Oh yeah, he won, his party won. But hey, Great Britain is lecturing everybody else about democracy, but they have a king. Hereditary. I know, and I want you to look at the House of the Lords. Right? I want you to look at that and see how they are elected and how they were elected until about what, 20 years? I want to go and be in the House of Lords, and you were. Why? Because my daddy, my granddaddy, this is the democracy the Brits talk about spreading around. All right, nevertheless, let's move on. So these guys provide the Ukrainians weapons to defend themselves against the Russians. Well, I don't think they provide the Ukrainians weapons to defend themselves. I think the Brits provide themselves weapons to destroy Russia. It's an offensive war coming from the Brits and the interests behind them. Without that, these guys need oil. These guys need gas. They can get gas and oil from Norway and other overcharged locations, they need cheap Russian gas and oil, and not only. And then they need a problem in Europe. Remember, one of how do you call it? Most important policies, foreign policies, like the pinnacle, like a foundation of their foreign policy is this: no strong country in Europe. Whenever there's a strong country in Europe, the Brits will try to destroy it. Why? Because that's the way they can cast their shadow of power. Otherwise, they will be starving, my friends. Not that the Europeans are producing a lot, but they can't afford doing that. And that's logical. I'm not saying that's bad, but call it as it is. Remember Charles de Gaulle, General Charles de Gaulle, whom I don't like. I'm mixed feelings about this person. And he said every time he met his European counterparts, he used to say, remember, Great Britain is an island, or England is an island, and the Americans don't live on this continent. They're across an ocean. So they told these guys, it's us, and these guys are outsiders. Do you think the outsiders want to see us succeeding? Why do you think Great Britain is outside of the European Union, but inside of the European Union? It's like, I have to give you this example of these people who live everywhere on this planet, almost everywhere, in the Western world mainly, but they have a head office. When they get caught somewhere, they jump over there. You can't touch me. I'm right here in my country. No. But you lived in the other country. That's where you committed the crime. This is the British now, or the English. All right. Let's go to the new rules of engagement. That is, we are going to shoot it down. We're going to sink a Russian vessel. Navy changes rules of engagement after Russian ship tries to blind RAF pilots. So see, the Russians blind RAF pilots. Who did what exactly? What do you think these guys were doing? Just flying 3,000 miles away from that? And this is the ship we're talking about here. They say it's a spy ship. The Russians say it's not a spy ship. Okay, let's see. Britain, not England. Britain is prepared to take military action. That means strike them against future incursion by a Russian spy ship that attempted to blind RAF pilots with lasers. So incursions was not illegal, just so you know, I will show you. And this is not necessarily a spy ship. That's why what they say it. Attempted to blind the military pilots with lasers. Okay. And this is what John Haley, the defense secretary, said the Royal Navy would be changing its rules of engagements after the Yantar, a suspected spy ship. What was over there? A Russian spy ship. You see that? They're going to use the spy ship right there. Now, Russian ship tries. This is neutral. But here there's suspected. When you say suspected, don't give me like it is one. Was detected off the coast of Scotland earlier this month. Was it illegal in Scotland's, Britain's territorial waters? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So, speaking at the press conference in Downing Street on Wednesday morning, Mr. Haley revealed the ship had fired beams of light towards a RAF P-8 Poseidon submarine hunting jet that had been seen to monitor it. No, we are the victims again. Mr. Haley said it was deeply dangerous and warned Russia that Britain, not England, had military options ready should Yantar change course. All right, ramping up military said the British warship would now be able to shadow the Yantar more closely and aggressively, approaching to a distance understood to be about the length of the football pitch, 100 meters. So you see how far these guys are right here? I don't know, let's say about 5 football pitches. Now they're going to be 100 meters. That is right here. What do you think if you're over there or over here? What do you think the difference is? Right here, I am waiting. I am ready to do something. So you are from here. You're a military vessel over there. You're going to strike these guys. The whole point is I provoke you. I'm going to come 100 meters, about 110 yards. Or 330 or 340 feet away from you, just going parallel like this. Is it illegal? I don't know, but I might have a itchy finger at that point because I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what you're going to do at 500 feet, 500 meters. But hey, let's read further and see what this baboon's saying. All right. Russian action is deeply dangerous, and this is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed to UK waters. Okay, you, on the other hand, are providing my enemy with Storm Shadow missiles that strike our territory. And you say what? What are you saying here? That second time it deployed to UK waters? It's not UK waters. It was I will show you where they were deployed. My message, this guy is a appointed guy. Remember, appointed guy, a bureaucrat, pushes papers. His message to Russia, entire Russia, and the president-elect of 145 million people is this: Putin, we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready, or we're gonna sink you. All right. A senior defense source said it would be inconceivable for British ships to be given permission to fire on the Yanar. However, well, wait a second. I'm going to read the Russian reaction to this. The intelligence ship now, its intelligence would have to do something very, very aggressive for anything kinetic to happen, like a military action. Answering an urgent question in Parliament on Thursday, Armed Forces said that RAF crew hit by the laser had to be medically assessed and that no injuries were received. Blah, 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 blah. We trust you and believe you. This was a highly dangerous and reckless attempt to disrupt our monitoring. All right. He told MPs that Russia did not want the world knowing what the Yatar was up to, adding, "We will not let the Yatar 2 go unchallenged as it attempts to survey our infrastructure, and any attempt to disrupt or damage underwater infrastructure will be met with the firmest of responses." Good. Russia dismissed Mr. Haley's provocative statements with its embassy in London, saying, and I'm quoting, "The endless accusations and suspicions of the British leadership are simply laughable. Our country's actions do not affect the interest of the United Kingdom and are not aimed at undermining its security." This is what this guy say. However, London, with its Russophobic course and the escalation of militaristic hysteria, is contributing to the further degradation of European security, creating the preconditions for new dangerous situations that the Brits will not encounter. It's going to be others fighting for them. It insisted that the Yantar was an oceanographic research vessel. This is what the Russians say. And the other guys say, no, it could be a spy one. Operating in international waters, Britain maintains the ship is being used to spy on vital underwater cables. All right? So, that's the first one. Next one. Let's see what's going on here, and they're going to discuss about this is the same thing. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Next one. Russian spy ship, you see, enters UK waters. When you hear that, this is a violation, right? And it's rather a given. By default, it's a Russian spy ship. But the other one, not this one, the other one said alleged, wasn't it? Again, US military options ready. If Russian spy ship, again, it's Russian spy ship. And the other one, what was it? Let's go to the first one where they say it was at the beginning. I think it was the first paragraph right there. All right, spy ship, the second paragraph, will be coming a suspected spy ship. Remember, a suspected spy ship is not a spy ship. A suspected criminal is not a criminal. This works in America. In England, probably it works if you post a tweet, we're going to jail you. If we don't like the tweet and it's insulting towards whomever we say it's insulting. You cannot be insulted. Only we can be insulted. I mean, this is baboonish. So remember, this is how they make news. And not only from half-truths, in about 5 minutes, they turn them into truth. From a suspected spy ship, the titles, all the titles except one, it's a Russian ship, said it's a spy ship. But then you find a suspected. All right, next one. Let's look at what these guys say about, I know somewhere here, it's something about the international waters, just so you understand. Right here. The Yantar had entered Britain's exclusive economic zone, which extends up to 200 nautical miles. Nothing illegal about that. About 230 miles offshore, but the ship has stayed on the edge of the country's territorial waters. Nothing illegal. Defined as stretching 12 nautical miles, 13.8 miles from the coast of Britain. That's nothing illegal. My point is this. The Brits will create a situation, will try to provoke, because they are winning in Ukraine, as you know. So obviously when you lose over there, you have to create something else, like in judo, for instance. In judo, you wait for the opponent to make a move in order to use his energy into your technique and destroy the opponent. Or you create a situation in which the other side will react to it, and you react by preparing that. So like in fighting, you just jab and wait for the guy to do something about your jab, and you're ready with this one to counter the moment he reacts to your jab. So that's a feint. So these guys are going to create a problem in order for the Russians to react. And the problem probably will be coming very close, maybe ramming them, and something like this. What will the Russians do? I think the Russians will smack the English. They will smack them, and the English will go crying to the Americans and say, see, we told you, they attack Europe. They attack our way of life. They attack us. That's what they're going to try to do. Why? In Ukraine, their limitation is already gone, done. You see how much they can do, and this is the limit. Do you think the Brits would not have sent over there more weapons if they had them? Why do you think the Brits did not send, I don't know, like 500, I don't know, RAF airplanes? Why do you think? Give it to Zelensky, like the French give the 100 Rafale. What do you think is so? I don't think they have them. That's the first thing. I don't think they have it. I don't think they have the weapons they say they have them. That's just a gut feeling. A gut feeling. That's what I think. I think when these guys say that we are having this, I don't think so. I think the British Defense Ministry, or however you want to call it, is funded for the bureaucrats, fat fucks. Not for the military, for the fucks. Do you remember that, how do you call it, portaavioan, îmi pic să beau, aircraft carrier, their pinnacle, it was what, like $2 billion? Took a shit twice he tried to cross the Atlantic. That's the level of diversity, I guess, in England. So the Russians are laughing. Oh, they're laughing about the Admiral Kuznetsov airplane carrier or something? You put $2 billion in that shit and could not even stay afloat. Anyway, I think they're just overstating their power. That's why maybe if Argentina tries again, might get those islands back. Just saying. But no, Milei is America's puppet. He's not going to do anything until told. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Remember, it was not Russia having a problem with the Brits. It was the Brits having a problem with Russia in Ukraine. And they will continue. They try to take over the other guy's resources and weaken Russia, maybe break Russia in about 5 parts, and so on. Now that the Russians won't be happy doing the same thing to the English, they will be happy to get rid of these guys. But it seems like these guys are at it first. But they play it like the Russians are the guys. Look over the map and see who is where. And you're going to find out. They are crying this thing is going to maybe fuck up these guys' communication cable. You gave these guys Storm Shadow missiles. You give the Ukrainians information and so on. You prepare, you train them. And you're telling me that we have a spy around your country? You have units probably in I think they have, in Ukraine. And you tell me to stop? Yeah, I will provoke you until you break. And when you break, I'm going to destroy you. I think that's could be Russia's stake. I don't think the Russians want to get involved with the Brits, but would probably definitely like to give them a smack or two. And the same with the Poles, the Baltic states, the big yappers. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.